We are live. Celtics postgame show. Bobby Manning, Jimmy Toscano, Joe Sway. That was easy.
The melodramatic John intro. I was waiting for it today.
That was easy. All right, so no. Look, all right, we'll get into it. But I mean, we've been doing this for a while now, right? And we all before they played Toronto in the bubble game. Toronto's really good, and then they beat them, and they're like, yeah, they beat them, but Toronto's really good. And then entering this series when you know that you're going to get through the Sixers, you're like, but Toronto's going to be tough. At what point are we going to? I mean, I'm not saying Toronto's not tough, but at what point do you start to look at this matchup and say the Celtics might just have Toronto's number here? I mean, this is 2 straight games that these two teams look completely mismatched, and this is a non-Hayward game. This thing was over early, and no matter what, even the Celtics did. Sure, they shot the lights out, but they played sloppy. They had a bunch of turnovers. They gave Toronto opportunities to get back into it. They never did. So, Jimmy, I'll start with you. Is it over?
It's effing over, kid. From the start. Literally from the very start. The one thing I'm going to remember from this game is just Nick Nurse just sitting on the bench like, oh, boy.
Right when the foul happened, the third foul.
I left Siakam in. Right. Yeah, he did.
Yeah,
like arms up like this.
Hand up. I screwed up. Yeah. That's the one. And honestly, the Celtics just they went up from the very beginning, and it never felt like the Raptors were even back in the game. Like there was never that little mini run that they went on where you're like, here we go, the typical Celtics second half letdown. No, it was just an onslaught from the start. And listen, I picked the Celtics in 7 earlier last week. So, I'm not surprised to see them win the game, but I am obviously surprised for them to win this game by this amount. But they just came out firing, and it felt like, listen, the one thing I thought the Celtics were going to be in trouble with was size. I never felt like they were overmatched out there. I never felt like there was mismatches. I actually thought that the Celtics were just working it up and down the court. Now, a lot of that has to do with they hit their shots, and the Raptors missed like crazy in the first half. So it really allowed the Celtics to control that from start.
Celtics coached a better game by far. Brad Stevens winning that foul battle early was essential. And when you see all those fouls flying, that's the sign of a team that's behind, a team that's out of position. And Toronto was defensively for much of this. I thought much of that had to do with starting Marc Gasol in this one and letting him ride for as long as they did. He didn't play well in this one at all. But I'm keeping the Raptors alive, and I picked them in this series, Jimmy.
Coward.
3 things that give me confidence for that. I don't think you're going to get 3 Siakam fouls in another game in this series that early. The turnovers for Boston were way too high. Over 20 in this one.
21 turnovers.
Toronto didn't take advantage of it. So they end up out of this game. They don't take advantage of that second quarter run. And, I think they're going to make the adjustments in this one. I truly do. Nick Nurse isn't going to be blown away for the whole series.
I don't think so either, but again, it's 2 in a row. Joe Sway, what do you think? Now we've seen him, twice, once in the bubble, once no. Let's get yours in, because Bobby's obviously wrong, and I just want to make sure that I just want to make sure we have majority.
I mean,
I'm ready for the bounce back.
This thing is far from over. I'm sort of with Bobby, but I'm still sticking to my prediction. I still got Celtics in 7. That was my prediction, and I'm sticking with it. I still say Celtics in 7, and the big reason is the way they were able to disrupt the Raptors in that first quarter. I mean, you got to Pascal Siakam, who looked like he just thought he could just go in the paint and just bully the Celtics, but it didn't work. The Celtics did terrific. They played him terrifically on defense, whether it was in the switches. You saw Marcus Smart banging down low with him.
Sammy! What a game for Sammy!
And he never found his rhythm. And so you could say the same about Kyle Lowry. Now, Kyle Lowry is interesting because he's defending Tatum, which I thought was an interesting decision by Nick Nurse. But he's gassed on the other end of the floor. I mean, he's running around trying to find his offense, and that just really catapulted everything from the beginning. I mean, the Celtics set the tone early and often from the beginning, and those guys just never got out of that funk. And even if they did, it was too little too late.
Yeah, and how much of that, again, we're always going to say it. You play a clean game, and I remember there was another game. It might have been the last Toronto game, honestly, where we kind of compared it to like Milwaukee Game 1, where everything went right for you. Milwaukee Game 1 last year. Everything goes right for you. Everything goes bad for them. It looks great when your shots fall, when theirs don't, because you can credit your defense for creating pressure. And yes, sure, Ojale is there, and he was bodying up Siakam. They did a good job, not letting him get what he wants. But a couple of those were rim outs. They fall. This game's a little bit closer. You stay in it. That's what I kind of wonder is, not just Siakam. Siakam was certainly bad, but you're talking about Van Fleet was terrible.
Right.
Offensively, at least, you know.
Well, you look at his defense too. He's chasing Jaylen Brown around. You know,
right.
like, this is a tough matchup for the wings for Toronto. You know, the Celtics certainly have the edge in that department.
The Celtics knew they had to get back on defense, too. When you saw Toronto kill them with the transition early in the second when Ibaka almost got the 3 straight scoring plays there, and then they get back. They put the emphasis on getting back. I think that's a big reason Enes Kanter didn't play today is because they knew that's a guy who can't get back on defense. And
here he goes.
They were able to
you know where this goes next, though, by the way. From Kanter, you know where we're going right after this, right?
To Time Lord.
Yeah. Because we've teased the people long enough, not talking. There was talk on the text thread about leading with Time Lord. I'm not kidding.
It started bad. It started bad though. You saw those 2 threes fly over his head, and you were like,
the full Rob Williams experience. He allows Ibaka to shoot 2 threes. Great. I mean, and then the third one, he jumps out like like he'd never played defense in his life before, and Ibaka's like, this is called an up fake, and just walks around him into the lane. He was like almost looking back at him, like, dude, I'm over here,
and all that.
Walks into Rodman, draws a foul, and you're like, oh boy, like
he does the Rodman bouncing on the rebounds and starts falling all over himself. It's
yeah. Right, he just looks right. It looks sloppy, but then he's freaking standing windmill in the lane,
dropping him in.
And I remember there was one great exchange where Ibaka, had played some defense, and Doris Burke started talking about, like, he used to be an elite shot blocker, but not anymore. And then comes the other end, and Williams just bam, picks one out of the sky, So this is obviously, we talked about round 1 was a Kanter series. This is probably a Rob Williams series, which is kind of interesting that the Celtics can do that. It's almost like, I hate drawing the comparison. It's almost like Patriot-like. One game you can play smash. It's nice when you can play different gears and different styles, And in this case, this helps them here. And the rotations were a little different, and Time Lord acquitted himself nicely.
Yeah, definitely. Man. And you need that energy off the bench. The Celtics need that from their second unit. And he was the first guy off the bench. Brad Stevens made it crystal clear. Look, I'm going with you. And he didn't disappoint. I mean, he stuck with it. You give up 2 back-to-back threes, and most younger players in that situation, game 1, the Eastern Conference Semifinals, that's going to stay in your head for quite a bit. But he didn't let it, And you got to give him props. I mean, let's see the adjustments that Toronto does, though, next game, too, because they weren't anticipating that. I don't think so.
Yeah.
Hey, Celtics bigs. I mean, we talk about Williams, but Tice today. I mean, unbelievable performance
Bring him up.
From Tice. We've gone too long into this video without bringing him up because he could have been their MVP of the game. I mean, this is a guy that, listen, we all watched him go as best he could with Joel Embiid, and that center position, that center battle is just an important one. I mean, we talked about how big the Raptors can be, and I just thought he more than held his own today. Who was it? 15 rebounds that he finished with. Right around that number. So, I mean, absolutely huge game from him, and just a player that he's almost like Marcus Smart in a way where he's kind of an X factor. Like, how deep the Celtics starting lineup is, and Tice is obviously typically, when Gordon Hayward's in the game, he's thought of as the distant 5th starter. But I mean, this is a guy that when he's on and when he's effective, I mean, really, I would expect the Celtics to go into a bit of a cruise control in this series if you're getting that Daniel Tice game in, game out.
Jimmy, is someone going to bring you a drink soon, or are you do you have somebody?
Yeah, I hope so. It's a little windy here. It's a little windy here. That's my only complaint.
I'm looking for there's an umbrella drink just right off camera here.
In 2 weeks, it's going to snow.
My own private island. I'm in the bubble, actually. I'm just outside the unit right now. This is what the players do.
He left early. Yeah. He was so confident that he left in the third quarter to take the good seat. Daniel Tice, let me keep it going because I want to, spill it all over John talking about him being undersized and stuff.
You realize everything nice you could say about him still holds true if we accept the fact that he actually is small for a center.
15 rebounds sounds big to me.
Yeah, but look at that move he made on Marcus All, though. Marcus All,
a year ago,
he doesn't go on to defend that 3.
Yeah.
He was so good on the boards, the positioning, the defense, the transition block he had too in the third quarter was awesome. And the passing. I thought he had a great dish out to Jaylen Brown for a 3, another dip over the top of the defense that Tatum botched inside when Tatum got going slow. And Tatum, 1 of 4 to 9 of 18.
Yeah,
what
but
a
he was
turnaround
sloppy. He played really, really loose. And a couple of times where those times where Toronto started to creep back in, or get it to like 10, 11, 12, and Tatum always felt like he was somewhere in the middle of that, like taking a bad shot or turning a ball over, just being a little loose with it. I think again, even his bad games are good games, but you're nitpicking there. But there was, he did not play his best game overall, I don't think, tonight.
And I think that's a product of him playing against a defense that gives you 3 different looks, as they did: the zone, the hedging, the dropping. And that screwed him up quite a bit, especially passing that back line. He had one that went right over everybody out of bounds.
He had 4. Yeah, go ahead, Josue, sorry.
No, I was going to say, that's the thing about these two teams, though. I mean, when you look at the Toronto Raptors, we've seen it time and time again when they go into these huge runs and they can really, erase the deficit. But they don't have to ride the back of one person. And sometimes when you have someone like Jason Tatum for the Celtics, that's a great asset to have, because those 17 points in the third quarter, I mean, we could have seen this thing go down to the wire if it wasn't for that. If you really think about it, I mean, those 17 points went a long way for the Celtics. And like John said, to your point, when the Raptors made that little comeback, or it seemed like they were going to, start cutting their deficit to at least 9 or 8 points, here comes Tatum again, in that fourth quarter and, end of the third quarter. And it was just too much of a cushion for the Raptors to come back from.
Yeah, and I thought
shut the game down.
The Celtics, they rode players for stretches throughout a game, but they didn't need a superstar performance from any one individual player in order to win this game. I mean, their high scorers today were 21 points. If you're the Raptors, you can't be feeling good about that, because you got absolutely murdered today, and nobody took over the game for the Celtics, from a start to finish type performance. I mean, they were just coming from all angles, and that's kind of why I picked the Celtics in 7. When their starting lineup is on, listen, they're not going to beat you with their depth. They had an 8-man rotation today. Robert Williams was commendable. Semi Ojeleye was commendable. Brad Wanamaker, commendable. All guys did exactly what they needed to do when they were in the game. But the Celtics rely on their starters, and every single one of them answered the bell today. I mean, we can talk about Jaylen Brown didn't have a great performance, but, he did what he needed to do. He did extend that lead early on in the first quarter. Him and Marcus Smart were hitting some big shots. And when Marcus Smart's 3-pointers were falling early on, I pretty much said, I think I even tweeted, that's a wrap. If that's how this game's going to go, that's a wrap. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, that's how it went.
And you saw that, I mean, again, we talked about it a lot when Hayward went down, that in order to overcome that, you're going to need Marcus to step up. And he didn't offensively. It was still enough, but, to get past Toronto, but to get past Philly, you knew that. But here, exactly that. First possession, boom, Celtics get a stop, swing it, they get it, swing it to the corner. Marcus hits a 3. And again, what a great sign. And then he hits another one, and you're like, uh-oh. And it just looked like he gets that confidence going when he does that, and he felt more in control offensively and more confident throughout the game, which is just, I mean, again, Jimmy, you said it. Look at the box score. It's unreal. 21 from Tatum, 18 from Walker, 21 from Smart, 17 from Brown, who didn't shoot great, but he seemed like he was really all, everywhere. And I mean, just the plus minuses, Walker 25, Smart 27,
crazy. Yeah.
Toronto's starters were badly outplayed.
We haven't even mentioned Kemba Walker. We haven't even mentioned him yet. Yeah. And honestly, on both ends of the court today, I thought he was exceptional. I mean, he's the guy, even as good as Jason Tatum is, if Kemba Walker has the ball at the end of a quarter, at the end of the game, I mean, that guy, when the seconds are ticking down, I just feel like he turns it on to another level. And I mean, we saw the 3-pointer at the end of the second quarter, and I just thought he kind of gave them exactly, why they brought him here. That's exactly the type of performance you got from today. I got a little nervous when he went down. I was hoping and praying it wasn't that left knee. Apparently it was some sort of left leg injury, but it didn't look like it was favoring the knee after that.
Yeah, I was a little nervous there, and Bobby, we were talking about it again offline, that I don't know if it looked like he lacked a little explosion. I don't know if he was a little tentative because he didn't want to tweak it. Maybe he was a tad off. I'm hoping that's something that ends up not being an issue, because, he's been kind of a lingering injury guy,
He moved well. He moved well the rest of the game, and that when he got stuck in the corner and threw out a ton of crossovers to get it to, I think it was Wanamaker who ended up missing the shot after. I was like, all right, he's still moving well. I thought he was excellent today. We talked so much about him coming in as a defensive possible mismatch for Toronto, and he didn't get stuck. They don't attack him. and he moves so well. He switches so well. They do a ton of off-ball switching, and this is what I love about this series. Like, each team is moving so much off the ball defensively, finding the better matchups. You saw Toronto do that too. Like, both these teams react to each other in such a fluent way. And I don't even think there'll be another game like today when it's such a blowout, because Toronto, they did things right. And John, as you always say, they just didn't hit the shots to follow up all the good things that they did.
Yeah, everything's a lot easier when you shoot 44% from three. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, that's the reality of it.
And I said it too. They played Brooklyn. I know the Celtics breezed through Philly, but they had to work for all 4 of those wins. Toronto just walked through Brooklyn like it was nothing, and this was a new level of intensity that they haven't seen yet.
There's no doubt about it. No matter what, Philly's gonna, Philly was somewhat of a test, even though it felt like none of those games were ever really in question. There was 3 losable games out of the 4, so you had to play, with at least focus and intensity throughout. Brooklyn, right. After game 1, that was a joke. So that wasn't, there was never, that series was never in doubt. Right. And they haven't played a meaningful game. I mean, you're right. I mean, it's a cakewalk series, and they didn't play a meaningful game in the bubble because they were locked into a 2 seed. So you're right. This kicks it up 2 levels for them.
Well, is that a problem then? Because now you're basically saying they haven't played a meaningful game in 5 months. So can you turn it on? What you're saying is that they haven't turned it on yet. Can they flip a switch like that?
I'm not saying it. What I'm saying at the front is not that Toronto's bad and not that the series is over, but at what point do we have enough evidence that the Celtics are a difficult matchup for them? And there's something.
There was no doubt about that.
And that's the thing that's really what it's about there's something here that Toronto struggles with the Celtics. They're able to check them kind of, there's not mismatches for their except for some size. But I don't know that that's exploitable in this case, and that's the thing. I'm not really sure where Toronto is going to make up the difference. They have to play that, really good. I mean, look, the Celtics seem to check them wherever their strengths are. They're really good transition offense, but the Celtics have one of the best transition defenses. They have some size, but it didn't look like the Gasol versus Tice thing is really going to play.
Non-existent.
Is going to play in their favor in the series, and they're an extra pass team, and that's fine. But the Celtics are great at chasing the ball and and getting out on the shooters. And the Celtics today seemed like that team that was making all the extra passes on offense. 25 assists and always looking for open shooters. So it's just everything Toronto did. The Celtics seemed to either check it or to do it a little bit better, and we've seen that now in a couple of games in a row and throughout the course of the season.
I think Siakam is really the key guy here for the Raptors, because if he gets a ball on the floor, if he's scoring off the dribble, if he's scoring in ISO situations, then the Celtics are going to have a problem. You're going to see more double teams come his way. You're going to see more open looks. So that's when the Celtics struggle, right? If the Toronto Raptors start draining 3-pointers and start winning the rebounding game, then you see the Celtics struggle. Again, and I think also look for the Raptors to go back to that 2-3 zone. You saw that in the second quarter, or was the second half. When they came out, they had that 7-0 run. Celtics were able to adjust, but this is a chess match. It really is. When you boil it down to Nick Nurse versus Brad Stevens, that's really what it comes down to, a chess match between those two. And the assets that they both have, I mean, it's just going to be interesting to see how they counter each other because, again, like I said from the top, I think the series is far from over.
I don't disagree, but I'm looking at this comment here, and I think a lot of times you talk about like what the Celtics need to do against teams, like you look at a Milwaukee or this or that. It's always when you need to be perfect, that it's hard to sustain that over a 7-game series. I don't feel like Toronto needs to be perfect. I just don't think they have a huge margin for error against the Celtics. Whereas the other way, I believe that the Celtics do, and I don't know, maybe it's just. Again, we've seen so much of the Celtics. You obviously have a greater understanding for what they do and don't do. But everything we've seen of Toronto, it really feels like they've got to play a really clean game over and over again. What works in their favor is they've done that throughout the course of the year. As we said, they won 35 out of 40 games down the stretch. So they are a team that can consistently put up good performances. We just haven't seen it against Boston.
What do you think of Kyle Lowry in this one, Jimmy? Because I look at him, and I said coming in, I picked Toronto in 7, but I was like, if this guy looks off at all, I'm going to back off that a little bit because he is the most important player. He makes shots from all levels, he runs the offense, and defensively he's a menace and gets the transition game going. I thought he was okay today, but it wasn't the 30-point Lowry that we saw in Game 1 of the Brooklyn series.
Okay is the best I think Kyle Lowry would say he was today, too. I mean, that wasn't a Kyle Lowry that, helped get them an NBA title last year. And I don't know how much of it is due to the ankle or how much of it is due to rust or what it might be. But certainly, he is the, leader of that team for all intents and purposes. And when he's going, I think the Raptors are going. And you can say that about the Celtics with, Jason Tatum or Kemba Walker or whoever. But a lot of the things John just mentioned is, you need all these things need to go right for the Raptors to beat the Celtics. Well, we used to say that about the Celtics, but a lot of those things are going right. Marcus Smart is going right. Tice is going right. Jaylen Brown has completely stepped up his game, from before the stoppage to now. So it feels like the Celtics are the team that's now sort of clicking on all cylinders, and the Raptors are suddenly the team that, well, they need all these things to go right. And I don't know if they have the talent for all those things.
Well,
it comes down to the NBA is
but see, that's the thing. They do
talent always rises. But do they have more talent than the Celtics? Is what if the Celtics
if they have Lowry,
if
they have Lowry and Siakam going like they do. But on a day like today, where Siakam's out of the fold, where Lowry's just okay,
right.
You suddenly see a team that has a massive talent gap, and it shows in the score. Yeah, and that's another one. He got back down a few times. He got beat up on defense, and then on the offensive end, he's just staying a few feet too back on the three-point line. I mean, he can hit those, but you see Boston's length come into play. This game, more than any, made me realize, after all these years, we watched the Celtics, and we were like, all right, can they make up the talent gap back to those Isaiah years? And then 18, they get hurt. 19, it's all screwed up. This year, it finally looks like other teams are playing them and are like, all right, we can't make up for all the shooting they have, for all this explosiveness they have offensively.
That's what I was saying, is I feel like Toronto has to play near perfect to match the Celtics. And again, it's a strange position after all of these years where you always felt in order for the Celtics to get to the finals or to win it, they had to play up, Whereas Milwaukee might be the only team you feel that for. And again, on a straight talent level, I don't know that I feel that this year with a full roster on both teams with the Celtics and Milwaukee. And I certainly feel like the only reason this series might have been close. Any series can be close, but the Hayward was a great equalizer where you're wondering, is that going to affect that talent gap they have, which I believe they have over Toronto? And they still looked like they had it today. It just means Toronto has a lot of players who do a lot of good things. I just feel like the Celtics have a lot of upper echelon players that it's hard when they're all going.
Yeah, definitely. And you know what? You look at, the last couple of years and, the playoff run that we've seen from the Celtics. And now you see what Jason Tatum's going through, third year. This is a rookie who is a game away from the NBA Finals, right? Heading into this series, though, which is interesting. I realized this last week after the Celtics concluded their last series. He's the best player in the series. And it's not even up for debate. This is the first time in his career that we're able to
agree.
And it's not even a debate. So I think, to John's point earlier, when you mentioned he seemed kind of loose out there, seemed like he was kind of, I think going into it, he knows that, and he knows that he has to channel that energy in specific times, and he did a really good job of doing that. He didn't get too excited in that first quarter. I thought Siakam got a little too excited. I thought Kyle Lowry was a little too anxious when the Celtics got out to a huge lead. And I think if you rattle those two guys early and often, this is just I don't want to say the Raptors fold completely, but it's just they beat themselves up, all game long, and they somewhat hung around with the Celtics, but they couldn't get over that hump, and Tatum had a lot to do with that.
Right.
That's a crisp microphone, Josue. You sound good on there.
Oh, do I? Thank you. My new laptop, I guess.
You know who looked like their front man actually in this one was Serge Ibaka, especially in that second quarter run, leading the transition, hitting all those threes, got into it with Tice.
Until Tice got into his head.
I'm not giving him credit for Tice. That was his mistake.
Tice got into his head.
Yeah, he can be a little bit of a hothead. I mean, we've seen him get into some shouting matches and physical matches out there in the court in the past. So that might be something that Tice, going from Embiid to Ibaka, these are two guys that emotionally you can kind of get under their skin and maybe there's a bit of an advantage there.
Do you start Ibaka? Because I do.
They have to.
I think I think you.
Yeah, I think that's the move.
I don't even think it's a question, honestly.
And Gasol was so important for them last year, but this hasn't been the same guy this year.
I don't think so.
Even with all the weight loss he, was able to accomplish over that.
Yeah, but against this team, no chance. Yeah,
no chance. What now?
The way Ibaka's been trying to beat up Tice too. I mean, if you're Nick Nurse, you want more of that. You want to intimidate him a bit. You don't want him to go out there and keep getting flagrants. But
they have Chris Boucher too, who I like, and didn't play at all in this one. So they have a few options to mix it up at the center spot for sure.
What I want to know is where are the Toronto fans, because they did so much chirping. No, they're every time we do a video and we put it on CLNS on our YouTube anywhere. These guys are chirping, and there's nobody in our chats right now. There's just a lot of Brad Stevens is a genius, and
they cleared out
General's defense.
Yeah,
it must be a beautiful day in Toronto. I'm sure they're all outside.
They're already preparing for game 2. They're getting.
Oh, here's one. This series will go 7. Burley, I thought you were one of us. I could be. I
agree. I'm still sticking to 7. I am.
Siakam is a literal raptor because he's short.
Oh man, that's short.
Let's go Boston. That's a good one. Thank you, Zane.
Sure. Thank you for your input.
Yeah.
Let's say though, this team, I give the Celtics so much credit.
There we go. Raptors fans are here. It's only game 1.
A modest bunch, as we always knew them.
Yeah. No, but it's
yeah, definitely. The first loss the Celtics get, they'll be all over this.
It's gonna be like a waterfall.
Joe Sway took some heavy artillery from Raptors fans a couple weeks ago. I mean, he was going to war in the comments section. I got a good laugh.
Yeah, they got me. They pulled me in, man. They wrote me in that time.
They did.
But did they look kind of boring today, though? I don't know. What did you think, Jimmy?
I thought this game was a blast. I loved it.
Not so much.
When did you become a diehard Raptors fan? Look at Bobby.
I enjoy watching these two teams play. I really do, and this series is gonna be great. We'll be back after game 2, and I'll get it. But I'll quiet down for the rest of the day.
Tice likes the Raptors almost as much as he hates Cantor.
Well, I mean the Celtics. You look at them now; they're 4-1 against. They're 4-1 against this team this year. They've proven it. They've had some blowout wins, including that bubble one, which you can't discount now. So more credit to them. They got themselves a great path here in this Eastern Conference. I don't know, when's that Bucks Heat series begin? Probably tomorrow, right? Probably, I mean, that's going to be a grind over there. So the Celtics are happy no matter what happens here that they have no part of that.
All right, guys, Bobby, Bobby, hold on 1 second. Can I jump in 1 second, okay? I got to do one thing here, and Bobby, don't get mad, okay? I'm going to bench you for 2 seconds. Okay.
Swap them out.
We are going to bring in the legendary Mike Petraglia. Okay, Mike, I can't see enough of you without the banner, so I'm gonna take it off the screen because this isn't about the Celtics postgame show. This is now a Mike Petraglia tribute celebration show. Mike, for those of you who have missed it, is 27 years in the business. He is the reason CLNS exists at this point because of his massive contributions, putting us on the map. And he announced that he is stepping away from the daily grind of the Boston Sports Media game after 27 years. He is one of the true legends of Boston Sports Media, and he's here joining us to say hi, hopefully to give some thoughts on the game, and to tell anybody out there who's watching just whatever is on your mind. But Trags, welcome.
I appreciate that, John. And I want to apologize to Jimmy Toscano for not including him in the column that I wrote today. So, Jimmy, please let me take this time to thank you as well for your assistance and your help. Josue, I included you in a photo captions.
We can go in. I'll go in and edit it, and I'm going to make my part bigger too.
I can't actually hear Trags right now.
You cannot? Jimmy, leave and come back so you can hear him.
Man, I appreciate that, Trags. No, I really do.
You're very welcome, Joseph.
I was actually thinking of you before we started recording. I'm like, man, I can't believe I got to reach out to Trags. As soon as we're done, I was going to reach out to you, man.
Yeah.
It was. I'm not going to lie. It was
Jimmy,
it was a lot of emotional energy putting that column together, but one that I absolutely, positively knew had to be written. And when you spend that long, almost 3 full decades in one area, covering what I've been blessed to cover, you got to put it down on paper so that people can appreciate what you've had the privilege of covering. And it was just, what you try to do in any column like that is add a personal touch to it, because everybody knows, right, what's happened in the last 25 years of Boston sports. It's been unprecedented. It's been incredible. Definitely. But when you write a column like that, it's about how did those experiences impact me, and how did they impact the people who read what I had to write about it? How were they impacted? So that's kind of what I tried to capture.
You did a terrific job with it, Trax. You really did, man. And I'm honestly, I was bummed out. We've had the privilege of working together for WEEI and then now for CLNS Media. And I'm gonna say, man, if or whenever we head back to the Garden, it will not be the same without you, Trax.
I appreciate that.
You, man. It really won't be the same.
All right, Jimmy, we can't hear you at all, buddy. We're gonna toss you.
Oh man.
Oh, poor Jimmy.
We're going to bring him back. He'll pop back in there. I'll let Bobby Manning say hi. Bobby.
Trags!
How you doing?
I had no clue. It caught me off guard today, and it is emotional. It really is. And I got to do a couple.
Oh.
You know what? We can only. I guess Trags is taking all the bandwidth out of the room. Jimmy, can you hear us?
Jimmy's turn now.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, no. I couldn't hear Trags to start, but I did hear a second time around. But I just wanted to say, first of all, I was completely floored to see that tweet from Trags today, because I'm so used to seeing Trags tweets. Usually it's from like some obscure high school game or some obscure college football game. I had no idea what was going on, but it was actually, oh my God, what? I never thought I would see the day that Trags, hangs it up kind of, I guess, on the Boston sports team. But I will say this, obviously I don't have a sliver of the success or notoriety that Trags had, but getting into the sports reporting scene, Trags was one of the first guys that I had known. He was one of the first guys to really embrace social media and really like see the worth there. And he's one of the first guys to really take me in. And I learned so much covering sports. And I hate to say it, I felt like a mini Trags at points in my career, because I was, Trags, you can probably remember me, tagging along for Red Sox, Celtics, Bruins. And sure enough, I would always see Trags there. Usually one of the first guys there. He's got his microphone, he's got his recorder, he's writing, huffing and puffing, swearing about something usually. But
that is true.
I mean, this guy has literally. I read the column and it's so true. I mean, he's seen it all. I mean, when you talk about Boston sports, I mean, this guy has probably written an article or a column on every major and minor sporting event that's occurred over the last 20 plus years. I mean, really, it is a true testament to your work ethic and your success.
So why now? I guess really when people say, well, why don't you just keep on doing it? I've seen enough. And at some point you want to accept a different kind of challenge in your life, right? And that's kind of where I'm at right now. I've seen it all. I've enjoyed it all. I've seen the ups and the downs, and now it's time to move on. And that's kind of how I view Boston sports in terms of my perspective on it. And I got to take a grade A slice of steak.
Yeah,
of what I was able to savor, and then an incredible dessert to go on top of it. So it's been an incredible 27 years, but this is now really a time for the next chapter in my life, professionally and personally, and that's kind of the way I'm looking at it.
Yeah. And Trags, like I said, we can't possibly express or verbalize how much your contributions will be missed, both in terms of just your indefatigable nature going into the field after working, doing other jobs, being all over the place. I don't think Trags has slept in 27 years. Okay,
no,
and
yeah.
if he has, it's only been like 2 hours a day.
Especially the last 5 years or so, he definitely has.
And I mean,
about your work ethic.
Fortunately, not
the grind and the effort. Yeah, and look, we have to be honest. We have some young people at this company who learned under the wings of Mike Petraglia and what he was able to teach, both in terms of you got to want it, you got to get after it, you got to put in the work, and here's the right way to do it. And a lot of people don't know this coming into the business, because some people are thrown in cold and they're not lucky enough to have a Mike Petraglia figure who is there to say, don't do it like that, do it like this, but in a respectful way. And he's not giving you shit. He's just telling you, if you want to be a pro, here's how you act like a pro. And he's done that for 27 straight years, and I don't think a lot of people can boast that.
And you know what else, too? He's going to tell you, you did a great job. And let me tell you right now, Trags, those compliments always went a long way when he came from you, Trags. Honestly, one of
I appreciate that,
hardest working guys I know. And, yeah, he's going to let you know, especially those first couple of years. And when I was with WEEI, I was really, showing me the ropes and things that I shouldn't do. But, yeah, Trags, honestly, from the bottom of my heart, man, like, just congrats on an amazing career. Thank you for your guidance, for your advice. Your compliments, they go such a long way. And honestly, I like this day, this moment makes me want to like step my game up times 100 just to show you, sort of how you planted these seeds, so to speak. I appreciate you, Trags. Seriously, honestly, man, congratulations.
I co-sign what you guys said. The one thing I'll correct John on is Trags definitely will give you shit. I mean, that is something.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That is something that he will do, and honestly, I appreciate that because, man, Trags, I mean, it could be a grind. There's a lot of long nights. There's a lot of long days. Fenway Park until 2-3 in the morning, and you need to have that humor.
Where's Joe Sway?
How many times?
Where is he?
How many times?
I can't believe this. My car is parked in the lot, and here we go.
How many times, Joe Sway, did I stomp my feet in front of Sierra asking where the athletes go? How many times did I do that? Every other game.
One time you turned the corner, you were like, Joe Sway, you like screamed it, and I was talking to Chevy Ojale, and you're like, I'm so sorry, keep going.
Yes, that is true.
Chevy looks at me and goes, dude, I think you gotta go, man. I was like, yeah, I gotta go.
Yeah. No, it's part of the adventure, and so I'm gonna squeeze one more freebie out of you, Trags, and ask you what you thought about the game because it is a post-game show.
Okay, I'm gonna be. This is total disclosure. I was out playing tennis with my younger daughter Emma.
Okay, we'll tell you that the series is over. Go.
Yeah, because the Celtics won the first game and because they have the better coach, even though they're playing the defending NBA champions.
It's over, right?
Yeah, it was a bit of a mismatch-looking type game today, but I don't think it'll be like that throughout the series.
I think Gordon Hayward's going to be, if he continues what he's done in the postseason, that's the one difference maker this year in the postseason for the Celtics that I don't think they had last year, and I think that's going to be a huge difference.
If and when he comes back from, when is the baby due? Anybody know?
Should be soon, right?
Right?
A couple of days, soon.
The way he had been playing, though, is kind of my point. The way he had been playing, if he comes back, he's a huge difference maker, something that they didn't have last year.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, right, you're looking at Toronto, and again, this is why you thought the edge would go to the Celtics with a Hayward involved, because you subtract Leonard from one side. I mean, that's a big one. But yeah, Toronto's been playing up over their heads all year. Hard to say that this one's over. But, Trax, do they have basketball in Cincinnati? I mean, what are you going to do?
Okay, well, it's all about college
hoops. What are you going to do?
Yeah?
It's all about college hoops. It's Xavier and Cincinnati, second best rivalry in college basketball.
Trags going to be in heaven watching those
games. There's no Royals anymore, Trags.
No. They are the Sacramento
They're
Kings.
The Kings, yeah.
2 cities removed.
Yeah.
Trags, can we eventually expect to see you pop up on some Ohio coverage here and there? Or?
I think so. That's kind of what I hinted at towards the end of the column is, I'd still like to do this, have a voice in sports from Southwest Ohio, and I certainly could wind up doing that. There's no question about that. There is certainly the possibility of contributing to CLNS down the road. I talked with John about that and mentioned that. But in terms of, my day-to-day coverage of Boston sports, that's kind of why I wrote what I wrote today is, that's done. I mean, that's pretty much finished.
What are you going to miss the most?
Sleep now. There you go, Trags.
Well, that's a tough one. That I would say, I'd say the games themselves. I'd say the Patriots and the Bruins, because there's something about covering hockey that really appeals to me, and especially in the Stanley Cup playoffs. When I say hockey, I'd say the Stanley Cup playoffs. When I say the Bruins and the Stanley Cup playoffs, and certainly covering the Patriots for as long as I did, and the relationships I have inside that organization, that's I'm going to miss that.
There's something about, I think, football. I mean, just covering all sport. I love just the Monday going into the game and just piecing it all together leading up to the game and saying, okay, this is what I've done this week. Here we go. Let's see how everything makes sense or doesn't make sense when this game goes. And then just the elevator down to the locker room after has always been something I thought was cool. I imagine you'll miss that feeling, I guess.
I'm not going to miss a lot of the grunt work that went along with covering some of those games, but again, I'll miss the relationships inside the press box. I actually will miss writing my column, 2 hours after the game. That was one of my favorite parts of covering the Patriots was, kind of encapsulating what was the biggest takeaway or the 1 or 2 or 3 biggest takeaways from what I just saw the last 3 hours. That was the fun part.
And it's quiet. All the idiots have left. You know, the lights finally go out.
Is right about that.
There's some really mediocre pizza up in the press box, you know. On the red level, you go down, you get a slice or two, you write it, and it's just peaceful and calm. You drive home. There's no one on the road. It is the end of that is the end of that.
John is so right about that.
Yeah,
no idea.
It is. I like that, and I also like Trags, and you're one of these guys too. I love getting there 5 hours prior to the game, going up into the press box, having your coffee, and just getting set, you know. And that's another nice thing. So
and making sure all of my equipment is in the place that I want it to be. Not in last second among people who are already set up.
Yeah. So again, it's. I'm sure you're going to keep doing it. What I will say is, computers and the internet, I believe, work in Ohio. So I think we can absolutely.
A couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, we did a site survey. So we can absolutely have you on the remote. Products like this, whenever you're ready, we're here with open arms. So it's still your beat, even if you're not here grinding like you were for the last 27 years.
I'd still like to have a voice on some of the podcasts. I mean, look, one of the things that CLNS has done and has really opened my eyes to wide open is the podcasting platform.
Yep.
And that is bigger now than it's ever been.
Right.
And I think it's only going to get bigger. John, you can speak to that more than I can. And also the video platform, that's going to be a bigger and bigger deal as well. And I think CLNS is on the leading edge of both of those entities and both of those, platforms.
Well, largely because of you, Meg. So, again, we thank you. We're going to put on Bo on the post game since you didn't see it. We're going to wrap it up with the three of us, say goodbye to you. Well, not goodbye, say we'll see you later. And say, thank you.
We love you, man.
Thank you very much, Mike. We'll be in touch. We'll see you on the.
Appreciate you all.
Yeah. And guys, thank you, Josue. Jimmy, one last word from Mike.
Good luck with everything. Stay in touch. And I can't wait to see what's next for you, man. Seriously. Personally and professionally.
I say safe travels. Thanks for everything. And, you always got a home here in Boston.
Definitely.
All right, Mikey.
You got it, Jimmy. Take care, John. Thanks for everything.
See you guys. All right, guys, hang in here. That was Mike Petralia for those. That was a quick program interruption for anybody out there. Trags, for those who don't know, and everybody should, has been covering Boston sports for 27 years. He's going to be stepping away for a little bit, but I guarantee you will see him on CLNS in the very near future. If not,
no doubt.
Soon.
Dude, so he needs it. He doesn't know it, but he needs the grind. So
he needs it. He needs it like air. But I mean, again,
he'll literally commute from Ohio. That's just what he wants to do.
He's like, John, here's my schedule for the week. I'm only gonna make it to 3 games from Ohio.
I don't know if I can get to the Sox from the Bruins next year,
but I will cover that presser. So putting a bow on the Celtics again. We're 2-1 here, and the series is over category. But we'll see. Game 2, you're right. You got to see something. You got to see something drastic from Toronto to feel like they're back. That they can make a dent in this series. Because right now, like I said, it does look like. Celtics have their number a little bit. So, in addition to starting Ibaka, Josue, what else do you think Toronto? I mean, and just make shots. But what else does Toronto need to do here?
I want to see some more ISO for not Van Fleet. I'm drawing a blank right now. What the heck is
Lowry?
Siakam. Jesus.
Siakam.
I don't think trying to get it to him down low and beat up the Celtics is going to be the game plan, because it looked like that was the case in that first quarter against the Celtics. I think that's how they started things off. They wanted Siakam to get things going down low. But I'm looking for him to, off the dribble, get his offense going, and then try to free up Kyle Lowry. I just think it's really important. Van Fleet, he'll get his buckets. He'll get his. It starts with those two guys.
I agree with Joseph. I think it's all about Siakam. I mean, they essentially took him out of the game, within the first 8 minutes or even less. So, they got to get him going early. They didn't have to score today by any stretch. I mean, they had nobody that was feeling it. They had nobody that they could hand the ball to and say, do your thing. And a lot of that, listen, when you pick up 3 fouls early on, you're playing a completely different style of basketball. You can't get hot. So they were kind of doomed from the start in that sense. So I think that what you get him in transition. And listen, the Celtics aren't going to win every game by 20 points. I expect them to win the series, but we're having a good time joking around. But at some point, we're going to be talking about a Celtics loss.
Of course, there's no question about it. Bobby, can you hear everybody on here?
Yep, got you.
Bobby, I'm sorry. No matter what we did there, when it seemed one would jump on, they wouldn't be able to hear. So Bobby didn't get a chance to say bye to Trags, but we want to get his thoughts here to wrap the game. And we're looking ahead to game 2. We talked about things that Toronto needs to get going to kind of make a series of it, and not make a series, just show that they can hang.
Yeah, you brought up the Gasol Ibaka thing. I don't know if they'll flip them, but Gasol probably needs less than 25, which was high in this one, especially in a blowout too. You think that's most of the minutes that this game actually mattered. The Siakam stuff is inherently going to flip this around. If he's able to play more in the next game, they're going to be so much better defensively. And it does come down to Van Fleet. Is he going to be able to find his space, his shooting? He's so crucial to everything they do. Coming into this one, 58% from 3 in the playoffs. Like, those 3 guys are going to be central to them getting back in these games. Baca especially, like, he should be chasing Tice in and out of this game. And then use Chris Boucher, who's an athletic, long center who can try to battle a little bit better with Robert Williams out there. Like, Gasol, I guess use him if you see Cantor in this one. But they're going to have to play the matchups like Stevens did in this one, and that's what Stevens got right here.
Right. Yeah, well, we'll see. Game 2 was 5:30, I believe?
Yep.
5:30 on Tuesday. We'll be back for it. You can catch all of our stuff here on our YouTube channel. We're going to have a few reports coming in after the game. We'll be doing post-game after every single game. So obviously, feel free, make sure you come in live for all of those. Our website, clnsmedia.com, and a fleet of podcasts emanating from the network that are going to be talking about this series and all things Celtics and all sorts of sports throughout the week as well. So for Josue Pavone, Jimmy Toscano, Bobby Manning, we will see you guys on